Well, I'm driving down through the city of Atlanta. The weekend of the Scottish Open 2022. And I'm headed to go play in a golf tournament myself. And I thought, you know what? I'll take just a minute and talk a little update about LIV Golf and the new evolution of professional tournament player golf that's going on in the world. So, as we all know, Greg Norman and the Saudis decided, hey, you know, we want to start us a golf tour. And, of course, you know, the reasons are known to some people, but, you know, the main thing is the Saudi Arabian government wants to diversify their economy. And so they're like, okay, you know, how are we going to do that? Well, they're open to any entrepreneur with any idea, you know, and they're certainly willing to help, you know, people develop new businesses. And part of that whole strategy has evolved into, okay, we're going to, you know, give it a shot at sports and things, you know, for awareness and, you know, whatever reasons. Okay, bottom line is they got Greg Norman to ramrod this project, and of course he's had a vision for what the pinnacle of professional golf should have been. You know, I think he was number one in the world for, I don't know, off and on, you know, throughout the 80s and 90s. So he certainly comes from a position of experience when he's talking about, okay, what should professional golf be? And so therefore, these guys, and of course Norman, you got to also realize Norman is very entrepreneurial. I mean, he's got quite a success history in business and starting things and making money and things that nature. So, you know, it's not kind of really uncommon or a strange affiliation that the Saudi Arabian government would want to work with him to come up with this idea to begin with. But anyway, so Norman is an entrepreneur. He's like, hey, you know, we'll just get started, and we'll draw attention to it through, you know, grabbing some top names. And I think ultimately, if you rewind the history books and talk about, you know, what Norman's vision was in the beginning was, okay, if you had a special series of events that only had the guys who had won major championships playing in it, that, you know, you would have the ultimate fan experience, because all the big names are, you know, that's why the fans go, is to see the big names, blah, blah. So that's the whole Champions Tour idea, or Major Champions Tour idea that Greg Norman had initially, sometime back in the 90s. And, you know, the PGA Tour, in conjunction with the European Tour, in many ways did everything they could to steal his thunder, try to make sure it wouldn't happen. So they were in opposition to what Norman was doing, okay, back in the day. And so, you know, Norman goes about his life, does his own thing. Next thing you know, it's like the Saudi guys come along and say, hey, we want to get involved in golf. So they're like, okay, we're going to fire this tour up. And Norman's like, okay, let's just do it. And so they really, if you think about how it came on the scene, it was pretty quick to come on the scene with some good tournaments at some really good venues with some good players in it, like right out of the gate. And these guys are throwing big money at the top end of the game, and they're drawing some guys like DeChambeau. You think about that. Dustin Johnson, you know, Patrick Reed, blah, blah, blah. The list kind of goes on. There's some big names there. So it's like, okay, they got that. They got those guys. You know, some people argue that maybe their games are dwindling, blah, blah, blah. Some people also argue, well, this isn't real professional golf. You know, there's no qualification process. There's no cut. There's no, you know, this is just exhibition golf, blah, blah, blah. So, you know, still at this stage in the world of professional golf, the real championships that determine who the historical, you know, Hall of Fame guys are in the game of golf boil down to the majors. And I think they include the, you know, I think they include the Walker Cup. I think they include the U.S. Amateur. I think they include the British Amateur. I think they certainly include both Opens. You know, if you rewind the clock a little bit, the Masters, when it was developed, you know, back in the, you know, late 30s, I guess, the Masters was the first LIV golf tournament ever developed or hosted, from the standpoint of it was an exhibition. It clearly was not a tournament that was qualified for. It was invitees that were brought to the Masters. And look how successful that thing's been over the last 80 years or so. So, in the same vein, now you have this LIV golf thing that these guys want to have a tour. You know, Norman sticks his hand in there, grabs it, throws mud up on the wall, and guess what? We got a tour, we got a new experience. Everybody's talking good about it. You know, it's like, okay, you know, there's a lot of hype. It's a lot of fun. We got music, we got concerts, we got, you know, good players playing golf on good golf courses. We got huge money. So it's getting some attention in that way. So it's like, okay, what's stage 2 for it? Well, next week at the British Open, the Open Championship in St. Andrews, 2022, could in fact be a huge springboard for the relevancy of LIV golf. Namely, you could have a LIV golf player win this thing. Okay? And I ain't saying it's going to happen, but I'm saying it could happen. And if it does happen, it's like changing the conversation automatically. Okay? Because those tournaments, the Masters, what has been the PGA, the U.S. Open, and the British Open are the 4 big main U.S. or world golf majors. Okay? Now, I've heard a lot of people say, and I've heard guys like Lee Trevino say specifically, I think it was Lee, that every tournament's a major these days because there's so much money involved and that sort of thing. And so now, really, all these LIV golf tournaments, they're majors too. It's like, because the guy winning the thing is getting $4.5 million. I mean, that makes it a major, right? So, the development of LIV golf is going to go through this metamorphosis because ultimately what it has to become is not a tour where you just got some big names out there hacking around for hacks and giggles or whatever, but you have the highest form and the highest quality of play. That's ultimately what they have to be striving for. And, you know, they got to figure out how to do that. And the ultimate, you know, visualization of this situation is if their players dominate golf, world golf, dominate the world rankings, and dominate the majors. And so that's the real challenge for LIV Golf and Greg Norman. Now, granted, that's a process. I'm sure they know that. I mean, Greg Norman won majors. He understands the importance of that. So these guys that are playing LIV Golf have got to dominate the majors. And then the conversation keeps changing and evolving. Now, how are they going to go about doing that? Well, their tour is going to have to evolve. They're going to have to develop their own majors. They're going to have to define what a major is from that standpoint. They're going to have an open qualifying tournament. You know, I think, you know, the way I see it going down, the way that the opportunity that I see that's open, that I don't know if Greg Norman sees is open, is, you know, the resurgence of the Australian Masters or the Australian Open. I think the Australian Open, in conjunction with LIV Golf and Greg Norman and all that kind of stuff, especially if they play in December, you know, has an opportunity to develop itself as a huge, quote, major championship golf tournament, especially if guys all around the world can't qualify for it. And then ultimately the champion of such a tournament gets something crazy like 25 million. Okay? So an open qualifying tournament where a guy gets 25 million. Okay, so ultimately I'm seeing that's the kind of evolution that's going to happen with LIV Golf, that has to happen with LIV Golf, to draw in the players, okay? To draw in the best guys. And ultimately, the guys who are the best look at it from the standpoint and say, you know what? I can go win this and get the 25 million. So right now, as LIV Golf starts with okay, we're going to pick some top names over here and we're going to pay them a bunch of money just to show up. That's how they got off the ground. Ultimately, it has to become, in my opinion, a funnel and qualifying tour where people decide, hey, you know, I want to go become a part of this. You know, and they make the choice to go qualify for it. Now, how that evolution happens, I can't tell you. But that's got to be in the cards, because if LIV Golf is going to dominate world golf, then it has to be producing the players that can go win the United States Open and the British Open and the Masters and all these other tournaments. So this week is a critical week in the evolution of LIV Golf, because you have you have a bunch of those guys, LIV guys, are in the British Open, and there's a good chance that one of those guys is going to win it. As a matter of fact, I'll try to do a rundown video next week of which LIV Golf players are in the British Open and which ones of them are the highest ranked players in the world, blah, 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 and, you know, which ones have real chance, real shot at winning that thing. And, you know, the biggest shot in the arm that whole LIV Golf thing can get is one of their dudes win a major, okay? Now, like I said, if that happens, it changes everything. It's just going to keep changing everything. Now, on the flip side of that, you got the U.S. guys, the PGA Tour, Monahan. He's teaming up with DP World Tour, you know, and, you know, they're trying to strengthen their alliances. They're trying to develop their own super majors, you know, from the standpoint of their own exhibition season, which takes their highest players and gives them 8 different tournaments to play for super prize money. Well, you know, looking at it, I'm thinking to myself, that's a good way to fight. I mean, that's That's the result that should have happened to begin with these guys. And at the same time, why hasn't it happened already? Why did it take the Saudi Tour to provoke the PGA Tour into their development? So you see that clearly the advent of the LIV Golf Tour was good for the PGA Tour. Why? Because it makes them, you know, kind of up their game. So all of this is good for professional golf. And ultimately, you know, right now what you've got with LIV Golf that I think is substandard and disappointing is that there's no open qualification process for LIV Golf, okay? Whereas on the PGA Tour and I'm sure on the DP World Tour, etc., there are some qualifying schools, and there's a process where a golf tournament player can go through the process and become, you know, a regular on the PGA Tour. And if you're good enough, it boils down to being good enough. And if you're good enough, then you can go through the PGA Tour qualifying process, and truthfully, if you're good enough, you'll probably make it through the first time. I mean, a good golfer is a good golfer is a good golfer is a good golfer, right? You know, conditions and 1 week and hole by hole and all this stuff really doesn't matter, because the cream rises to the top if you can really play. And of course, you know, maybe it takes a guy 2 or 3 years. I mean, we all know the story of Mac O'Grady that took 17 tries to qualify for the PGA Tour, and ultimately kind of became an icon. He would have been a LIV Golf player potentially back in the day. And you know, he really had a lot of problems and issues with the tour too. It's pretty funny. You can go back and study some of those videos on Mac O'Grady and see some pretty cool stuff. And he was a great player, and probably still to this day is, you know, hits it pretty good. But anyway, back to where we're at with this particular development of this week. You have the British Open, St. Andrews, home of golf, 2022. 72-hole tournament. I think they have maybe 2 cuts over there. I can't remember. You know, I don't know how big the field is. It's huge. You know, it's probably 160 players plus. And they come from all over the world. I mean, I don't know if y'all know this or not, but, you know, the R&A will send you an application to play in the British Open. And you probably can go over there and do it if you want to, you know, through a qualifying process. And, you know, that's something that you probably should do if you're a decent player. You know, I look back on it and think to myself, I should have went over there and tried it, you know, sometime, but just never got around to it and wasn't good enough anyway. But you look at what's going on with that whole deal. It's a qualifying process from around the world. People send in their application, want to try to qualify for the Open Championship, and that develops the champion golfer of the year. You know, all of that stuff has kind of made it and turned it into the World Championship of Golf. I think it probably is the ultimate championship of golf. The pinnacle of golf always happens this time, mid-July every year. So you know, the whole year leads up to this thing, and you know, you get to crown the champion golfer of the year. Now, if the champion golfer of the year plays on the LIV Tour, then bang, you've already changed how world golf is going on. Ultimately, you look at the LIV Golf guys, how is it going to develop? Well, clearly they're going to go after the top-ranked amateurs in the world and try to get them to join the tour. And who knows what the conversations are behind the scenes on LIV Golf about the evolution of the tour, what the expectations are, you know, what kind of tournaments are they going to have? Are they ever going to have 72-hole tournaments? Are there ever going to be majors on LIV Golf? Is there ever going to be, you know, qualifying capability? You know, if you look at the order of merit on LIV Golf, which I haven't looked at, by the way, I must in all fairness say that I haven't. I'm sure LIV Golf has got a money list right now, okay? Who's in last place? You know, who knows? But those guys are getting culled and dropped off. So there's a LIV Golf player out there somewhere who's in last place who, you know, the next time Xander Schauffele decides that he wants to play LIV Golf, then, you know, whoever that guy is in last place is getting bounced, and here comes Xander Schauffele, right? So, I mean, that's kind of how that whole thing is going down, and that has a limit. That has a big limit because, I mean, there's only 48 spots. So, you know, granted, if they got enough money to get Tiger Woods out there and, you know, cherry pick whoever they want at the top of the whole deal, then, you know, yeah, you got a name recognition worldwide tour, and maybe it has some value. But without a process where some truly great golfer decides they want to be, you know, winning majors, and they also want to do that and prepare their game through a, you know, tournament playing and LIV Golf, until that happens, then there's a little bit of illegitimacy to the LIV Golf experience, and there's also a upper hand that the PGA Tour's got with all that infrastructure of qualifying, and, you know, you got a Korn Ferry Tour and all these other B-grade tours and stuff that give some of these guys, developmental guys, a place to play. So it's going to be interesting to see how that whole thing develops. And ultimately, I think it's all good for golf. You know, anybody that says this is bad for golf, you know, what is the argument that it's bad for golf? Is the argument it's bad for golf because it takes away some good players from a PGA Tour event, so that, you know, weakens their draw, and it weakens their ticket sales, and it weakens their position on, you know, the John Deere Classic or whatever it is? I'm like, okay, whatever. You know, that may be partially true. But, you know, I don't know a whole lot of people that watch the John Deere Classic to begin with, or Quad Cities, or, you know, Memphis, or a lot, you know, all these kind of tournaments, you know, that are kind of substandard and weird. You know, what we all want to see is these pinnacle events where the best of the best of the best of the best play and fight it out. I mean, that's what we're looking to see. I don't know about you, but me as a golf fan, I'm looking to see 4 or 5 guys at the top of their game. You know, the pinnacle of the game, coming down the stretch on a terrific golf course that's going to challenge them. You know, coming down the last, you know, 18 holes, trying to be the guy at the end that has the lowest score. I mean, that's what real golf competition is all about. I mean, if you just want to see golf competition, you can go to, you know, Chattanooga up here and watch the Brainerd Invitational, and go out there and rent you a cart and on Sunday and drive around and watch the leaders in the final group. I mean, you know, you're going to get to see some golf competition, and guys play pretty good. So, you know, there ain't a lot of difference between the Sunday round at the Brainerd Invitational and, you know, the John Deere Classic, in my opinion, if you just want to watch guys that play golf pretty good. So what we want to see is, we want to see that funnel of the best on earth playing in an event that means something, coming down the stretch with the chance to record your name, you know, in the history books and enter the Hall of Fame. I mean, that's really the ultimate position in the game that we all want to see. Not just a LIV Golf tournament that's got Dustin Johnson and Sergio Garcia and, you know, Charles Schwartzer in there. You know, I think if you look at it from the standpoint of, okay, can they sell tickets? Can they draw a crowd? Yeah, I think they can. Is it costing them a lot of money? Yeah. Are they making money on that tour right now? No, there's no possible way they're making money on that tour right now. They don't have the sponsors. They don't have the, you know, people pairing up with them. You know, they're not selling enough tickets for enough money, especially to support these purses that they're doing and all that. So, you know, it's not a viable business right now. LIV Golf is not a viable business right now. Now, one thing that Norman knows about viable businesses is growth in revenue. And one thing's for sure, LIV Golf had zero revenue prior to this year, and right now they got some revenue. So LIV Golf revenue is growing at a very, very fast pace. And anybody who's in business can get on a dry erase board and draw those graphs and charts and kind of plot that thing and track it. And next thing you know when you're profitable. You know what I mean? So it's like, then what do you do with the profits? I mean, that's a typical business thing. Norman knows all about that stuff. He may be the best at that, arguably, especially in golf. He may be the smartest business guy in golf. So anyway, the evolution continues. Ultimately, LIV Golf, if they want to be a legitimate tour that is creating the pinnacle experience of the fan watching golf, then they got to have majors, they got to have the best players in the world, and they got to have them fighting and clawing and qualifying to get in those things. And you know, I think it'd be pretty simple. You just say, hey, we're going to have an Australian Open down here. You know, the winner gets $25 million. Second place is $24 million. Third place, $23 million. I mean, just go down the row like that, you know. And you will get guys like Jordan Spieth, for example, who say to themselves, well, I can beat all of these guys, so I'm just going to go down there and pluck that $25 million. You know, it's a choice of, I'm going to go down here and decide to play in this thing. And I'm going to decide to play in this thing, you know, for the chance to win the ultimate prize. And I mean, that's the corner I think LIV Golf's got to turn. And I mean, we'll see what happens, right? But this week, coming up, you know, right now we got the Scottish Open this weekend, which is a kind of preliminary thing. We got Tiger Woods over there going to play in the British Open next week at St. Andrews. And you got PGA Tour players, you got LIV Golf players in the field, and it's going to be, you know, I think it may be, could possibly be, it's kind of being set up to be the greatest championship in the history of golf. So I'm hoping that's how it turns out. All right, see y'all later.